What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Further North. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry about my voice. I feel like last pod I was a little bit flat. I've been sick all week. I'm not doing very well, but I'm still here podding. So, hey, here we go. Welcome to the clip. Thank you for clicking on it. Interesting discussion today. Alistair Clarkson and more of him versus the media sort of stuff. Because I'm hearing and seeing a lot of things that are true, aren't true. Fans feel one way. Opposition fans and media think the other way. So we're going to try and break it down a little bit with my thoughts, but what I can sort of see happening around us. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It means a lot. It helps me out a lot. Give it a like. Respectful comments down below are always welcome. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this too. Are you positive on Clarkson? Are you negative on Clarkson? Please let me know down below, but let's not trash anybody or anything like that, okay? Let's just be respectful. So let's get into it a little bit. Clarkson versus the media. Let's talk about the short term or what's happened in the last week. It's been a rough week for North fans. We were always going to get a couple of these this year, okay? If we really thought every single game of the AFL season was going to be competitive for us, then that's a little bit crazy. We're probably going to get smashed like we did against the Swans maybe 2, 3, hopefully not 4 times this year. But I still think that foundation is there. You know, if you listen to the pod I put out, you know, it was the morning after. We still were a little bit hot-headed. And you guys know that. I'm also not going to hold back on that sort of stuff because it's a fan podcast. And I just put out my opinions at the time. And I hope the listeners are coming along for the journey with me and understand how we're all feeling, because I'm just trying to be a representation of the fans. And if you don't agree with me on some things, that's okay. But, you know, I'm putting out my feelings and thoughts because I'm lucky enough to have built a bit of a platform for people to listen to, and that is really cool. So last week, or a couple of weeks ago, well, the best thing ever. North Ball was here. Every media outlet. David King as well is we like David King, but God, he is so hard to listen to sometimes. With 2 weeks ago, him sitting on, you know, Fox Footy saying it feels like they've arrived, and now it's gone to it feels like they've made no progress, or the old North Melbourne is back now. And I know you've got to get headlines, and I know you've got to make everything seem more dramatic than it is. Did North Melbourne break out against Melbourne? No. We had a really good game, and we hope we can build off it. Is our one big loss this year against Sydney so catastrophic for the football club that nothing has changed? No. Those ends of the spectrum are wrong. The answer is always somewhere in the middle, and that's what we're going to try and find today. I just think it's crazy, the different narrative, and I just think it's so stupid. I understand that's what they have to do, but please don't get clickbaited into that, because they're just trying to make you click, react, share it, comment on it. They don't care about positivity, negativity. They're not trying to help anything. They're trying to sell things, sell their product, right? So the media narrative on Clarkson has always been interesting. Damien Barrett is the leader of this, who is the worst North supporter on the planet. And if I ever see him at a final or anything, I hope we boo him if he comes up on the screen. And he's a journalist. His goal is to make outrageous headlines, suggestive headlines, confronting headlines to be able to get you to click and get you to watch. And he knows that if he says something negative about North, it's going to get more response and more reaction than something positive, because we're not a massive fan base. We don't have, 100,000 Collingwood fans coming to defend, North Melbourne. It's different, right? He knows the game, and that's why he's been in there for so long. But he's been on this, and they're not saying to fire Clarkson, but it's the suggestion. It's like when all the racism stuff came around and it sort of just slightly went away. I don't know what happened in the end. We don't really know. All we know is it's sort of gone away and we haven't heard much for a long, long time. And that maybe suggests it's settled or something. I don't know. This isn't a video about that. But when that story broke, before anything was proven, they didn't say he was guilty, but you heard them talk about it and saying, geez, he's in hot water here. Oh God, it's not looking good for Clarkson, which is pushing the narrative that he's guilty, right? So they haven't liked him since day one. The amount of times I'm hearing Clarkson isn't the right guy, his tactics aren't there, and that is a fair enough debate. Right? That's a fair enough thing to say. But the constant pressuring him into not being the guy every single week, and then when he does something good, there's nothing to repercuss that, I think is insane. So should Clarkson be on the hot seat or should he not? In my opinion, no. He's been there for 3 years. Take out the first year, there's 2 years. He's been in the football club for 2 years and they want him gone already. Who are we bringing in for one? That's something that not a single journalist ever says when they say get rid of Clarkson. There's no alternatives, right? 2, look at what he's done off the field. We're not Hawthorn. I bet you guys as North fans have had so many people go, look what Hawthorn did. It can change quickly, mate. Well, guess what? Hawthorn is basically the only team off the top of my head since Hawthorn did it in 2008. All right. Other than that, the Blues rebuild is slow. The D's was slow. The Tigers was slow. The Lions was slow. And now North is slow. Because the difference between those clubs and Hawthorn is we have to rebuild a football club, not rebuild a list. We're rebuilding a football club. So let's look at some things Clarkson has done since he's come into the football club. So the foundation he has built of presidency, CEO, footy operations, all the back office staff are here. And there's a collective, which is the biggest thing. Imagine in your workplace if all the managers and the owner and stuff were changing all the time to be chaos. And that's what we had before Clarkson. So he's built that foundation. Look at the players he's drafted. He's drafted Cheezel. He's drafted Wardlaw. He's drafted McKercher. Dersma, still a work in progress, but hey, who knows what he can be. And then you look at other guys like, he drafts Hardiman, and we've got Taylor Goad coming through who's looking like a better player now. And there's all these like mid to late first round picks that he's picked up that we all like. There's not too many guys that he's drafted. I know it's Brady and that sort of stuff, but you know he's got a massive part in it. He's done those things. And before, what was happening? We were drafting Phoenix Spices and Flynn Perez and Jack Marnies and, all these guys. So he's building a foundation there. Now, is 2 years enough time? No. So it's really interesting that they'll say Clarkson's not the guy. See, North's been bad for 7 or 8 years. Well, that doesn't really make sense, does it? And that's the narrative I'm seeing. So I just don't understand this. Now let's flip to the other side for a second. The things I think you can question about Alistair Clarkson are his tactics, okay? I didn't have too much to question before the Sydney game, so let's talk about the Sydney game and just have a chat about where we think Clarkson might be at tactics-wise. Like Brad Scott, I feel like Brad Scott was a decent list manager, enforcer, sort of got people to unite and move forward in a direction. At North Melbourne, Essendon are an absolute shambles, but we won't talk about them. I sort of felt he had that to a degree, but tactically, I think that's where Brad Scott fell apart. Now, Clarkson, tactically in the past, a genius. And I think we need to still bank on that because beggars can't be choosers. Because that's what we are at the moment. We're a rubbish football club and we're getting better and we're going to get there. But we have to admit what it's like, okay? I don't understand. There's been a lot of game plan questions. Like last year, we didn't really see any game plan. I didn't really know how they were trying to play. And the times that we looked like we were trying to get some corridor together, some fast transition, some slingshot footy, North ball, it didn't work. We didn't have the players to execute that. You can see we've got the players to execute it a bit more now. But then on the weekend with him selecting 4 key defenders, dropping Toby Pink, who had another solid game in the VFL after having a really good game against Adelaide, sets a bad standard. So I didn't like that. 4 key defenders against the Swans when Hayward tore us apart. And I know Amati was there, kicked 4, and McLean. But why are we playing 4 key defenders and then subbing one of them off? That was always going to happen. When you got guys like Robert Hansen Jr. not having a good game. And even Bailey Scott barely did anything. 12 touches for the day, just, no run. So I think as a fan base, it's the first time we've been looking at some of his selections and been like, what are you doing, mate? And I think that's fair criticism. I think that's absolutely fair criticism. But the criticism comes a little bit too early for me on Clarkson. So for me, I think he's the right man for the job. It's like a Paul Roos situation for me. He's going to come in, he's going to stabilize us, he's going to make us sustainable. He's going to make us a place that people don't mind going to. Right? He's going to have the family mentality back. He's played for the club. He knows what being a shinbone is all about. And I think he's really brought that back. The players want to play for him. How many players would have left if he wasn't there? 2 3-win seasons in a row and not one player asked to leave the club last year. I think that's down to Clarkson. So I know opposition fans aren't going to see any of that stuff and not going to acknowledge it. But the media should be better than that because they get paid to know this sort of stuff. And not a single mention of the foundation he's building off the field, because you've got to rebuild the club off the field before you rebuild it on the field. But I understand, because the bias in the media is anti-North. Because we're smaller, you're not going to get the clicks, you're not going to get the engagement from positive North content. All right? And that's just the way it is. And even when we win, it's not going to come. That's why we, and hopefully fan channels like this, Can Get TV with Marnie and the Close to a Flag boys and the other pods we've got going on hashtag and that sort of stuff. This is why fan channels and things like that are becoming much, much bigger. Because yes, we're biased, but people want to hear what the fellow supporter and fan thinks. And that's great. Because I don't want to keep turning on Fox Footy, hearing David King go from North just broke out to 2 weeks later, we're rubbish again. I don't want to hear Damien Barrett going on and on about just waiting for the second that we're bad to just trash us. That's what it felt like at the start of the year. All these media personnel, Kane Corns, saying, they can win. If they don't win 8 to 10 games, then the whole place should be burnt to the ground. Well, 8 to 10 games is pretty unrealistic coming from 3 wins with the youngest team and list in the AFL. But what they're doing is they're setting it up so when they don't hit their higher expectation, they can trash us because it gets more views, impressions, clicks, more money. So that's my opinion on it. Let's leave it there. I think that's really all there is to talk about it. I think it's fair to question Clarkson a little bit tactically at the moment, and I'm definitely doing that. I'm really interested to see selection. We can't go in with 4 key defenders again. I honestly think Whitlock, I wish he was playing forward. I think it's baffling to me. There's another thing I'm questioning Clarkson over is, why are we drafting this guy? I mean, we've got like 5 key defenders in the VFL. We had Dawson, Pink. Whitlock would usually play in there, and Tomlinson, all in key defenders. And there's Teakle and Finbar for it's ridiculous. So anyway, I won't rant about that any longer. Let me know what you guys think about the media narrative against Clarkson. Do you think the media treat him unfairly? Do you think it is fair to question Clarkson's tactics at the moment? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much. It's been a rubbish week as a North fan. Pretty scary going against the Gold Coast. We'll have a preview coming out, but I don't like our chances over there at the moment. I think it's a very pivotal point, the next 2 or 3 games for North Melbourne this season, because if we're 1-7 or 1-6, it's going to get a little bit ugly, I think. And I really don't want it to, because we've played 3 solid enough games or game styles, obviously only 1-3, but we were solid enough to build a foundation off. Hopefully it's just a blip. We were never going to go through the season without getting smashed. I've settled down a little bit. I think we'll be okay still. But the next 2-3 weeks are incredibly crucial. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give it a like, put your comments below. Instagram is the best place to follow Further North. That's where everything is. We get your input as well for the podcast. So get on there. Facebook is always humming, and TikTok is blowing up at the moment. So thank you so much for that. Thank you guys. We'll chat to you soon. Go North. Stay strong. I'm here for you. See you later.